Well, good evening, Cedar Falls. Welcome to our standing committee meetings for Monday, October 3rd. We have one item on the agenda for the Public Safety Committee meeting tonight, so I'll get our meeting started with a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Schultz.
Here.
DeBoer. Here. Cruz.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Dyers.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The only item on the agenda this evening for the Public Safety Committee is a review of our fireworks ordinance. We'll have a brief presentation from our Acting Police Chief, Mark Howard, and then we'll have some discussion and see what comes of it. So, Chief Howard, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you. So we were asked to go through the ordinance, listen to some of the proposals you all made several weeks ago, go through them, and then give a recommendation at the end. So I just did a brief PowerPoint where we kind of went through each proposal. The first proposal, I think it was Councilman Sires had brought up, is just kind of a straightforward proposal, 3rd and 4th only. Be the only nights allowed where fireworks would be allowed, and then changing that time frame to 10:30 as was discussed. So it'd be noon to 10:30, but just on the 3rd and the 4th. For us, over time, probably easiest to enforce because it would bring consistency to the ordinance. Each year, there wouldn't have to be that educational campaign after a few years where people would just know within the city that's the consistent ordinance. I do think we'll always have troubles when the 3rd and 4th falls on a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Sunday, Monday. Where it doesn't include the weekend days. The second proposal is the 3rd and 4th plus the Saturday prior to the 3rd and 4th. And although I like including the Saturday on this one, it could be troubling if the 3rd and 4th were Wednesday, Thursday, and the Saturday before was several days before. Or if the 3rd and 4th were Thursday, Friday, yet the Saturday that it's allowed was 6 days before that. And it just that big window in there where you couldn't use it, I could see troubling for us. I could see it bringing a debate with you all where we might see a heavy hand of enforcement having to be done because of that time frame. I'm not trying to go to them too fast here, but I want to give you guys time for questions and debate. Proposal 3, for us, probably the most troubling, that would be that you guys would have a debate each year. You guys would set those days by December. I think that would cause for a large campaign, educational campaign every year, where we would have to educate the public on what days were allowed each year. It would never be a consistent set of days. Or a consistent number of days. So for us, I think it would be, we'd run into a lot of, last year it was Friday, Saturday, what happened, for those that didn't pay attention. So we'd really have to push an educational campaign like we did this year, where it was first allowed again. I think that would be an every year venue for us. And then that debate, the constant debate that you all went through this spring, I think would be an every year thing. It just would be in the fall before December came. And then the 4th one I call the hybrid. It's kind of a mix of the first one, and then adding, instead of just Saturday, but any day, a day that you could add. If the 3rd and 4th were a Sunday, Monday, you guys could say, hey, next year, let's add Saturday. Or if it was a Thursday, Friday, you could add Saturday. Something in that measure where you could add that day, that weekend day. Although easier for us is the straight up third and fourth. I like having the weekend. I think, just talking to people this year when I was out, many people simply get together as a family over the weekend. And this would be a way to where we could include that. Again, probably a minor campaign every year, not as big as some of the other proposals, but we would have to run some type of educational campaign for this proposal also. So really what we came up with as far as the Public Safety Department, we would recommend either Proposal 1 or Proposal 4, which I call a little bit of a hybrid of Proposal 1. So any questions, whatever, just fire them at me here.
I appreciate that very succinct report, Chief. I think we'll bring it back to council for questions of clarity to begin with. One that I would ask to begin with, I just wanted to see if you would comment, given the Saturday was the third and a legal day, was that our highest volume of usage? We didn't get calls for violations that day, though, because it was legal. So how do we gauge whether Saturday or the third was most successful?
Well, I think
this past
Saturday
year?
wasn't legal.
Yeah, Saturday was second.
Saturday was the
Oh,
second.
yeah, I apologize, it was
So
Sunday.
I think we ran into a year, it was a Sunday, Monday is what it was. We did have a lot of usage on Saturday, but I think, obviously the fourth is always our most popular day, but again, you're right, we wouldn't have calls. I can look back in past years and see where it would be, but, the weekend is always going to be where we have a high volume of usage.
Sure. Okay. Appreciate that clarification. Other council members, I'll open up for questions. Councilmember Cruz?
Thank you. Just kind of curious, it says the last day of December each year. Is there a reason that we want to do it that way, or just grabbing a date to say?
I'll jump in here. That's more or less an arbitrary date, early enough so that we have time to do the campaign if you pick one of the hybrids that have differing dates. But you could pick a later date or earlier date.
Or if enough council voted for it, we could talk about it in February, March, April, whenever we wanted to, really, couldn't we? Even though the code said that? Or
You could, but I think public safety would appreciate plenty of
Okay, just curious.
lead time.
Well, if I were to make a comment,
Actually, let's do questions of clarity first. We'll bring it back to comment in a bit. Yes. Sorry, Councilmember DeBoer.
Enforcement, have you figured out how they would rewrite the tickets? Because last year there was a problem with the tickets.
Right, we would have to go back to being misdemeanor violations, where it'd be a court appearance.
And just for clarity, so those pieces of the ordinance that will be discussed at a later date are kind of non-negotiables. We'll have to move back to that. So this meeting is really just to find out the preference of council on the dates and whether by resolution. Obviously, the misdemeanor would need to go back into effect because half the goal of this program was to reduce violations on random days. So we'll have to make that an actual enforceable law as well with this future change. Yep, Councilmember Harding.
So you talked about educational aspects or campaigns with some of the things. Are we planning to run an educational campaign or keep some sort of literature out there for the public and the signs every year? Or is that something you guys are hoping to get away from?
I think we'd like to shrink it. I don't think we minded doing it. We think it was successful, what we did, but we were pretty large scale this year because it was a new thing allowing the usage. If it was the third and fourth, if you went with Proposal 1, I think you would eventually get away from the campaign altogether because everybody would know it's the third and fourth. Maybe some public announcement saying, hey, it's the Tuesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday this year, or hey, third and fourth falls on Monday, Tuesday this year. But really, you could get away from the educational campaign if it's a set third and fourth and no arbitrary day that you could add. If you go with proposal number 4, then I think you would, you'd still have to have a little bit of a campaign, and where you'd say, hey, Saturday's included this year. It's, fireworks this year is the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th, or the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, or whatever day you guys chose. I think there'd have to be some form of a campaign, just to be fair to users.
That makes sense.
Any other questions from council at this point for understanding? And Councilmember Dunn, go ahead and speak up if you have one. If not, we'll give you a moment to unmute. But
Dustin, Kelly just texted me that she's having trouble hearing you. She can hear everybody else. So Kelly, I think if you can hear me, this is Jennifer. If you have any comments, Dustin was just asking if you have any comments.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
yes, ma'am. Floor is yours.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't hear much, but I just wanted to voice that I feel it's incredibly important to, I guess, go with either of the recommendations from our acting police chief. As we started this conversation earlier this year when we met with our neighbors from Waterloo, I just felt the big theme to the success that they have is consistency, and part of the consistency was the consistency with them. Although I understand that we're not going to be totally consistent now, I do appreciate the somewhat consistency of either the option number 1 or option number 4. I guess the number 4, if we think we're going to have a problem on the weekends because there will be people participating, you know, if that window is important to helping us being able to hopefully not have a problem with enforcement. I don't know that I'm saying that correctly. That's one of my thoughts, although I would be okay with the 3rd and 4th window as well. But I just think consistency, and then obviously the recommendations of the people that are actually doing the enforcement and the job of the enforcement is incredibly important to go with. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. We've kind of moved a little bit into a comment section, but I'll ask a couple more clarifying questions if you have questions for clarity. Nope. And
I was just
go
going
ahead.
to say that I probably didn't mention it, but in all 4 proposals, we did change the time to 10:30 p.m. So it'd be noon to 10:30 instead of the noon to 10, noon to 11 that we saw this year.
Yep, so there's some consistency gains in any of these proposals.
Yes.
That makes sense. Other council members' questions at this moment? No? Okay. I think I do want to gain any comments from the public, and I don't see a bunch, but if anybody has public comment, feel free to step up at this moment. All right, seeing none there, I think we will go ahead and bring it back to council for comments and preference dialogue. So, Councilmember Harding.
Ultimately, I'm okay with either one. It's not, you know, I'm willing to try either one. I do like the flexibility of number 4, allowing us to add a Saturday or add nothing, or, you know, just that flexibility is good. It also keeps the educational component there. I understand wanting to scale that down, but I think keeping the educational component in front of people will really help keep the calls down and keep it within that window, as when you remove that signage, people tend to not think about it and they forget. So I would lean towards number 4 first, but if the majority of council wants to go with number 1, I'm also okay with that. The others I'm not.
Okay.
I don't want to do.
I think just as a process of elimination, I think anybody for items 3 or 2 that would care to speak in favor of those, or we can kind of move on and deliberate between 1 and 4 at this point. Okay. Other council persons for comment? Councilmember Schultz?
I'm kind of leaning more towards 1 to maintain consistent, where if we do the Saturday, then every year as Chief was saying, the Saturday could end up 6 days ahead of the 3rd or 4th, and then we're still deliberating on, okay, do we even add a Saturday or do we not add another day this year? Whereas we said just strictly the 3rd and 4th, that's it, and whatever it lands on each year, it's consistent, and you guys have your ordinance and your orders of what you enforce and what days you do it.
I think I'll just jump in with a comment and then I'll come back to you here. I think I have a little bit of an idea of how difficult it could be to enforce on Saturdays, and I'm, I guess, a little more in favor of the possibility to designate a day if we choose to with proposal number 4 for a couple reasons. One, we're trying to clean up our ordinance code so we don't have to keep changing the ordinance each year. So I guess I would look at that one as a future proofing so that we could say, you know, any additional days shall be designated by a resolution in advance. That helps us so that there's some flexibility for us without having to go back and review the actual ordinance change that we will have to do later this year or early next year. And another reason there, it's the enforcement of it. Half the reason we tried this pilot program was to make sure that we reduced the outlying, you pick your own day to violate the law. and that gives nobody peace and quiet throughout the summertime. Where we say these are the days that are allowed, it gets it out of the way so that we provide a lot more peace and quiet on a lot more nights overall. I have a concern that Saturday would be utilized regardless, even as we saw a little bit last year. But as we move people towards this adherence to the ordinance, that extra flexibility is preferential for me. Other council comments? Councilmember Cruz.
I agree with your comment there about any additional days could be in the code written, and then as we debate it each year, it would be probably a pretty short debate. We've come to the conclusion that the 10:30 is a good time instead of 10 or 11, so that cuts down a lot of debate we had this past season. And, we have the possibility of a Thursday, Friday, 3rd and 4th, rolls right into a Saturday with family gatherings. I think that's important. People will be coming home for the Friday, the 4th, where they have a national holiday, and the inclination will be going into a Saturday to do it, continue it on. So I would be in favor of proposal 4 with the slight modification of any additional days, which will be generic in the code, and then we could, by council each year, just say, okay, let's pick which Saturday it would turn out to be, and possibly a Friday if it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That'd make it 4 days. So it gives us flexibility without having to change the code.
Sure. Councilmember Harding, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just going to say to your point and Councilmember Schultz that if we don't have to pick an additional day if we don't want to. If it seems like the 3rd and 4th fall on a good day, we can just keep that. So there'll always be the consistency of the 3rd and 4th. It would just be if we feel it prudent to say, well, it's like Councilmember Cruz said, it's Thursday, Friday. It's probably prudent that we add Saturday that year. So anyway, that was all. But just that we don't have to add a day. It's not mandatory.
Right. That makes sense. Councilmember DeBoer?
I'm in favor of proposal 1, just because it's clear, concise, and to the point. It leads less to confusion for the public.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Cyrus, go ahead.
We celebrate the 4th of July because it's Independence Day. It is the 4th of July. So if we have the 3rd of July and the 4th of July, it'd be very simple. Chief Howard likes that. I think it's a good idea. To just go ahead and say, well, maybe we'll add some more days. I'm for just number 1. It's clear and concise. It's the 3rd and the 4th. Maybe bump it up to 11, maybe not. 10:30 is fine. But at least that gives the exact day which we celebrate. And the reason we're celebrating it is because it's Independence Day and it's the 4th of July. So I'm for number 1.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Do it.
Because I could go either way on this. Which one would you pick if you were up here?
I do like, as a police officer, I do like the straight 3rd and 4th.
Okay.
And maybe to continue on what you had asked earlier, for every proposal, we'll have to do some form of campaign every year, educational campaign, because we are different than Waterloo. One of the problems we had when we were completely different than Waterloo is people buying in Waterloo being told their days they could use them, but they live in Cedar Falls. So I think it'd be to our benefit no matter what. I just think the smaller campaign comes with a more consistent ordinance. I really like having a weekend day because that's the only time my whole family can get together. I'm just being honest. But as a police officer, I'm not giving you a good answer here, but as a police officer, the 3rd and 4th is probably most consistent for us.
That didn't help at all. I'm just being honest.
I'm not
Thanks.
Oh, my.
Okay.
Just,
Councilmember Cruz, go ahead.
I think, Simon, what you were saying a little bit ago was that our proposal number 4 doesn't require us to take an extra day. We can just say 3rd and 4th. And it can be a very quick discussion at the council for that year. And again, the code would be there to be flexible to say, yep, 3rd and 4th. And then, 3rd and 4th is Thursday, Friday. Saturday, there's going to be shooting, more than likely. Just saying. Doesn't have to be. But the 4 would give us options without changing the language.
Yeah, by my tally, I kind of think we're a little bit split on 1 and 4, and I think I'll just make that last pitch there, that gives us the flexibility if we went with 4 to set no additional days or to set an additional day as needed to future-proof our ordinance for this. I really appreciate the perspective that the consistency helps there. I guess what I don't want to have, though, is to say we're going to say 3rd and 4th only, and then when that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to go ahead and penalize everybody that shoots off on Saturday. That seems like it's punishing working folks that are going to be working, the next day on the 3rd and 4th that might elect to do a Saturday should future councils provide that opportunity. So I think if we leave that option in there to give the potential for an either or, we're going to find enhanced peace and quiet on the weeknights and every other night that's not designated by giving us that backup plan should we find that we want to add that in on those off years. That's just my pitch in support of 4. So, other council persons have a comment, or we would take some more public comment at this point, I suppose, if Mayor Green, you'd like to add your 2 cents as well.
Thanks. I just wanted to add in too, I've been talking with Mayor Hart about this as well, and there is a desire to collaborate again. And I'll just note, if it was an additional date that was optional as a floater, that would give us more likelihood that we could match with Waterloo if they had a 3rd date. Just want to throw that out there.
Gotcha. So for clarity, they have been 3rd, 4th, and 5th for several years now. So if what I'm understanding here is that could give us the option to add in the 5th and be consistent in all of our marketing campaigns should the council decide to add that extra day in if that existed in the ordinance. Okay, appreciate that. Okay, so I think what our goal here tonight is to try and come up with a consensus that we could put to council to put forward an ordinance. I don't have a clear consensus on 1 or 4, so I guess since I'm the chair, I would say we would, I'd motion that we entertain idea number 4 with the change of any additional days shall be designated by December 31st, just because that's already there. That way it doesn't give us any wiggle room to throw it in late in the game for the Public Safety Department. So I would move that we go with that recommendation with that changed, any additional days shall be designated. Anybody want to second that idea? Okay.
I have a point of clarity.
Sure.
Just from Kevin. Can the presiding officer in a committee make a motion, or can he just entertain a motion?
Technically not supposed to, but he could just
Well,
ask for a motion along those lines from somebody else.
So I'm asking for a motion to support item.
So moved.
second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to send on to council a recommendation to draft ordinance in support of this item 4 proposal. Discussion on that motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilmember Cyrus.
you could always add another date. If you just went with the first one, any council at any time can just add on another date. You don't have to have, if we ask Kevin, I think he'll agree.
By resolution, yeah.
You can't?
Unless the ordinance allows for additional day by resolution, it would require an ordinance amendment to add another day. If for instance, for 1, and then down the road we decided we want to do something else, it require another ordinance amendment.
I'm still just for the 2 days.
Okay. Other comment or question on that motion?
Dustin, because Kelly said she couldn't hear you, Simon or Kim might want to repeat what the motion is so Kelly knows what she's voting.
Okay, Kelly, I'm going to ask you to give me a yes here. Can you hear me now?
Hey, I don't know if anybody can hear me, but I can't even really hear Simon. I feel like it's down the line. I can hear everybody and I can hear staff, but I can't hear Simon very well, and I sure can't hear Dustin.
That's by design. They don't want you to hear me.
I figured Denny was trying to do that. Could you hear Chief Howard? She can't hear me if I'm going to ask.
What's that?
Kelly, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Perfect. You want to summarize what we're talking about? Thank you.
So there's a motion on the table to entertain number 4. Do you have those with you?
Yeah, no, yep. I got
Okay.
number 4, the hybrid. Yep.
It's for July 4th and July 3rd, and I believe we're going to go with any additional day can be added.
Okay.
Any or 1?
And you need to know how I feel about that, yes or no, right now?
Not
Yes,
immediately.
like,
Yeah,
mean, it'd be
okay,
helpful
I'm okay.
for-
I'm okay with that.
okay.
Okay, any other in the room care to comment, adding or having any there? Do we have consensus then to put that forward
Well,
to?
we need to vote, voice
No,
vote.
that's what I'm- That's what I'm getting. So we're looking to see if we have consensus to send that on or not. So I guess a simple voice vote could show consensus for that motion to recommend to council. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so it looks like show of hands for,
Clarify what Kelly's
Yeah.
vote is if she can't hear you. So you'll probably have to ask Kelly if her vote's aye for that motion or nay.
I'll have a show of hands and Kelly a voice vote if you want to ask her for that, please.
Kelly, we're doing a motion for number 4. Was that an aye or a nay?
Aye.
And those in the room, aye. Okay, and those opposed were nay. It looks like 4-3. We'll move that on to council for consideration of that ordinance change. Thank you very much. Given that's the only item on our agenda for the committee meeting tonight, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. We'll see you back here at 7 for our regular council meeting.